Yeah, and it'll probably be a really old shorthand San.
Mm-mm.
So like the original like settlers in Australia will have used a lot of British slang. Very interesting. It's fascinating, this sort of thing, where you see linguistic divergence within people's lifetime.
Well, Australian English is a very interesting case because, and like early on, it actually was treated by linguists as like this very pure form of English because it wasn't just what happens when you take one country. It's what happens when you take a bunch of different cultures and then just merge them all together, right? Like we have a lot of Greek immigrants. We have a lot of people from the UK, obviously. We have a lot of Chinese immigrants. We have a lot of Vietnamese immigrants. Like a bunch of different cultures. And you just like put them all together and see what happens. And because of that, we develop a lot of slang, which is very, very unique to Australia. Oftentimes, it is make words as short as possible. But also, you know, people make fun of the... Yeah, I'm sure you occasionally get the bottle of water, right?
We get a little bottle of water, you know?
With Australian English, you put a lot of emphasis on that like R sound, right? Like even... It's I think it's called like the intrusive R, where even in words that don't have an R, it sort of just appears there. Like a good example when I talk about the GNOME GUI library libadwaita, right? Like there's no R there, but like I cannot get rid of it.
Waiter.
Libadwaita.
Yeah. It's weird how every variant gets its own, like we get bottle of water. I assume in Australia, I bet you guys get shrimp on the bar.
Yeah, that's
Anna Foster's or something.
Shrimp on the barbie is like that's from like an American ad. It's an American. It's and the Foster's thing. The Foster's one's actually really amusing because where is Foster's actually from?
Pittsburgh, for all I know.
Okay, it was Australian.
Right.
Now it's owned by, of course, it's owned by Asahi, of course it is. They own everything. But you can't find, like, I can't think of the last time I actually saw like Foster's in a bottle shop. It's like, and you can never buy it if you go to a pub. No one drinks it here. What you get is you get delicious beverages like 4X Gold and Victoria Bitter VB.
Victoria Bitter.
Gotta get your VB.
Gotta get your VB. Because we drink Foster's here. It's always on tap. Unless you're at a pub that's actually nice. It's always on tap. Yeah, it's the thing. And
Carlton Draft as well. Yeah, you're gonna see that everywhere.
Carlton Draft, yeah. Also, we get Carlton as well, actually. Black and white one, isn't it? The label.
I'm not. Maybe I don't drink beer.
I am something of a. I have something of a scum palate, and I will happily neck a Foster's quite regularly. And I think it is just that they lean over here into the marketing that they're from Australia, in theory, originally. So they have cultivated internationally without really, I guess, consulting Australia as a country. That they are actually the most Australian drink ever.
Well, what's growing a lot here are a lot of like Japanese and like East Asian drinks. Like Asahi is becoming very popular here.
Love Asahi.
And for like pre-mixed drinks, you know, we have of course the strong zeros, which are marketed as -196 here, which is a way less interesting name. Because they developed it, they create the drink at -196 degrees to crush the lemons. Wow. I don't know.
I'll take 6 packs.
The ads they were first running is they had like it's this really stupid ad. They had like this frozen lemon. It was like, this is how we make -196, and then like 2 sumo wrestlers like run at the lemon and crush it.
Oh gosh, it is that. It is that with the Foster's thing and the shrimp on the Barbie thing. It's that this is the biggest stereotype we've got You know, it's the sumo wrestlers
Yeah.
smashing a lemon together for science of Japan.
Wait, I'll see if I can find it. It's such a stupid
yeah.
ad.
I'm not sure what the offhand American equivalent is to one of these phrases, because you got British English with like bottle of water, which is a very specific part of Britain, but we won't get into that there. I can't be British and salty about it. There's shrimp on the barbie for Australia. What does New Zealand have? New Zealand is just often forgotten on maps of the world.
I can give you what New Zealand has, but then we might be getting into deep Australian dislike of. I'm sure you can give how people feel in different parts of the UK about other parts of the UK, and that's the first thing that comes to mind.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I often am not entirely sure how seriously people take it, so I'm actually quite careful with it online, even if it's a bit. I've got friends from Birmingham, but who are self-hating Brums, which I think is brilliant. I think it's always brilliant to sort of have a little humor about where you're from on it. But yeah, you get that internally here. It's weird with Australia because it's like they're not in Australia, not like the sixth state, or they found a way to make hate prevail.
This is not the same ad I was thinking of. This is another one, but this one has samurais instead.
It's the same vibe then.
Yeah.
Is this how you make -106?
Oh, Fruit Ninja. Hell yeah.
Ridiculous. This is how we make -106. Whole, beef, crush, extreme Japanese spirit.
Yeah,
I like
really
my
lent into
extreme
that.
Japanese spirits.
My extreme Japanese spirit. Be very careful not to copy him too closely. Oh, I don't want to.
God,
gosh, yeah. that would. They've only gotten away with that because they've hired a Japanese voice actor. But I guarantee that in the boardroom planning that, they were doing the voice. Is what all I can think about, because this will be like an Australian off branch or an American off branch of the marketing for this.
Yeah, I don't know who does the distribution in Australia.
Kind of feels like how television felt in 2006. That advert was, you know what I mean? It feels like Mythbusters is up next.
Right. Yeah, this is
just the vibe I'm getting.
Yeah, it felt Australian marketing's always had like a very specific kind of feel to it. I don't really know how to explain it. Yeah, I don't know. I've had people on before who are like around my age in Australia, and we've like talked, we've kind of nerded out about like early 2000s Australian ads. And even if you don't know, it's like, I think a great comparison is look at an Australian ad and then look at an American ad about Australia. Like, look at like old Outback Steakhouse ads, and it's like it's both about Australia, but it's a whole different interpretation of how America does. Like, when America does something about Australia, it kind of feels like a Wild West ad, but with Australian accents.
Right. That's a fascinating perspective. That's absolutely what it is. They've just gone, it's like British Wild West, give them an Australian accent and call it a day. It's the same sort of frontiering, I suppose, so I can see how you get into that. Yeah. And then you have British adverts, which all of them feel like, you're going to sit down in a comfortable chair that's very easy to get in and out of, don't you know? They're very posh. I was reminded of the Muzzy commercial, which is I don't know if you guys had this one. It was like a series of really expensive cartoon tapes for children to in theory learn French by watching like 5 or 6 episodes of a cartoon over and over and over. Drilled it. My understanding is it never worked, but it was in 2002 like £130 for the set. Bonkers of a thing to buy that does not work. The advert is very funny. It's got this very well-spoken grandmother here who's bought it as a wonderful gift for their children, second language. And a lot of adverts feel like that to me from that era of television before sort of we ended up Americanizing our TV.
We also have like a very there's like a subset of the Australian accent that people don't really think of as the accent as much, which is like that same sort of posh accent, right? When people think of like the UK accent, most, like, especially Americans, are going to think of like the posh royal UK accent.
Yeah.
But with Australia, it's kind of the opposite. Where people think of the Australian accent, they think of like, if you want a great example of it, go on YouTube and look up Siggy Butt Brain. Siggy Butt Brain is a great example. This is about the first episode. It's about a guy trying to get a lighter, and his friend keeps stealing his lighter, and they're at the like train station. They're both like methed out. This is peak Australian accent.
Yeah. Kind of like the Big Les show.
Yes, another great example. But like we have that same sort of like if you hear like any of the Australian celebrities that get exported, right? They have a lot more of a. I honestly I've never been around these people, so I can't even do the accent, right? Like I grew up in rural Australia. I can fall back into that accent. I have no idea how to go the other direction.
Are you familiar with the channel Fairbairn Films?
They're actually
the rural
from my state.
Australian. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Would that sort of be like the rural accent then?
Definitely closer to it. I would say especially earlier on they had more of that accent. But I'm sure you probably either can point to people or know people who have an accent where it's so rural that people can't really understand it unless like you've lived in the country. I know I have family members like that where it's like sometimes I struggle to understand what the hell they're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. There's in popular media, I suppose there's Jeremy Clarkson from Top Gear.
Of course, yeah.
Are you aware that he runs a farm now?
I am aware he runs a farm, yes.
There's Gerald in that's very much so out, very, very out in the Cotswolds. So he's got like that strong accent. He's an older gent, so he's been there probably all his life. No one has a clue what he's saying unless you actively listen. It kind of feels like when you're learning a language and you are having to actively keep track or you'll lose it. If you drop a word, that's it.
I think my favorite thing is when I see when it's like Outback Truckers, and I've seen it aired in America, and they actually have English subtitles on it, and it is.
They do that to us though, and they'll just be talking normal British like, and it's not fair to subtitle us like that. They can't do us dirty,
Yeah, we're like most like UK accents. I don't really. Okay, maybe some of the really deep ones. Like, I might struggle with that, but like most, it's close enough to the Australian accent where even if some of the specific like terminology might be different, I can follow along with it. Right? I have had. I don't get it myself because I can very clearly hear the difference, but I have had plenty of people think, "Oh, are you British?" No, I'm not British. The one I understand a lot more is South African. The South African accent is actually fairly similar to the Australian one. There's some distinct differences, but especially if you're ESL, I can see how you would make that comparison.
Yeah, like. Absolutely, actually. Now I think about it, it's kind of... You'd have to know what you're listening for, certainly. And if you're ESL or American, you might have like a lot of trouble pretty much making that connection. And that's a fascinating point. I guess I've never put the Australian accent next to the South African one in my head before. But yeah, it, as you say, it's kind of like a pure form of English. And they, I guess, must have not taken too far of a path off when they diverged from the mother tongue.
Mm.
You know?
Well, we still obviously have a
Scottish.
lot of like British influences, right? So it's still that like core baseline, but it's a lot of sort of melding of other things into it.
There are researchers in the Antarctic, and they end up developing their own because they're isolated between a group of like 6 people. Maybe they're isolated for like 6 months, and they come back with dialect. And linguists frothing at them. They love this shit. This is great for them because it shows how quickly you can almost immediately diverge with just a hand if you reduce the amount of people. Partly it's because I think, and I'm not a linguist. It's not my field, so I might be wrong. But I think it's partly because you have less external correction on the factors. It's very easy for noise to be amplified quickly if you have a group of people who are cooperative with each other. And if someone says something funny, they might just, instead of going, "Hey, you're saying that dumb," it's less chance that you're going to have someone do that sort of social correction, and it will just get picked up. So the smaller you have it and the more isolated, the quicker you end up moving on from your dialect.
Well, yeah, the intention is you're there to get work done. You need to be able to understand each other. Yep. So if you adjust the way you're speaking for someone who may not particularly understand what you're saying, like I can definitely see how that quickly happens. I would assume the same thing may happen on like the ISS as well. I don't know if anyone's done research on that.
I think the ISS, because they're sort of constantly in communication, that might be the only reason why it doesn't happen as much, because you are far more isolated in some places on Earth than you actually are on. You are in constant communication with ground control because they got to monitor that thing. It's a complicated little boat thing, really. And yeah, down in the Arctic though, and on boats actually in general, if you get out to sea, you'll see, I'd imagine, similar things. Like there's the stereotypical pirate voice, but that'll have come from something. That kind of thing. And what it will probably come from is sailors coming home during the height of like British sailing, and Britannia ruling the waves and such. It'll be derived from that because there'll be different dialects, and over the years we'll have smashed it into the Pirates of the Caribbean voice that we have now, which is sort of like the most memey version of it. Sure. We've collected all of like the most catchy features of everything. But boats, research stations, probably space stations one day if we had more than one of them, so that we didn't have like constantly a team of like 100 people on the ground staffing and talking to them and sending messages all day.
I would imagine
start seeing that too
when we start doing like long voyages and when there's the goal of colonizing Mars. I would assume that would very quickly diverge into its own dialect.